Alright, today we're going to learn how to play Come Now Is the Time to Worship on bass guitar. We're going to try this with a very basic version, and we're going to listen to the tracks later while we play it, but just some input. When you're playing it, it's mostly D. So when you're playing it, you don't want to keep your fingers pressed on the notes, otherwise it's going to have that open ring to it. It's like it's like playing the open third string for D, and it's not that great. So what you want to do is like press and release, press, release, press, release. Kind of it mutes the note, so it signifies the end of the measure. So I will, instead of playing it, you'll be playing it where you're like, it just sounds better that way. Like I pluck and I press at the same time, and so I'm gonna play it like that. And then we're going to also use the A note right above the D. So that's kind of how we'll be playing most of the song. Now the A to D kind of like chord combination is a very basic one, but once you feel comfortable with your scales or with your fingering transitions, you can do something like A, B, and D pattern. So it just sounds more fun that way. But anyway, just for the basic version of Come Now Is the Time to Worship, we'll just use the D and A pattern. So really try to practice that timing where you're pressing the note on the fret and then plucking it at the same time. So the intro starts with just D. Verse also starts the same way, just D. And then we switch to an A, and since we're already pressing the A here, you have the option of staying on the A and then doing an open string for E. So A, A, E, A, 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 E, A, A, A. Or you can also do an octave. So same thing you're doing with D, you can do it with the E. So this is A, and this is its octave on the third string, 7th fret. So you can also do the second and third string on the 7th fret. So now you have the D. You can do this, or you can do. So that's the alternating chord between D and A. And now the next one's going to be a chord progression where it's E minor 7, or just bass, sorry, it's E, D, and then G. So it's gonna come with the part like, come, now is the time to give your heart. So it's just descending chords, E, D, G. Since you sing that part of the verse twice, what I'd recommend you do, you start with E, D, and the lower G on the first one. And then on the second one, you can do E, D, and then the higher G, and this is the octave. So it's gonna sound like this for the entire verse. So that's the first half of the verse. And I use all the lower notes, and then on the second part I can use the high notes. And then it also comes back to D again. So that's the verse. The chorus, it's gonna be G and then D, G and D, G, B minor, G and then A. So it's gonna be G, D, are the two parts of the song, the verse and the chorus. There is a bridge, which is sung, I believe, after the second verse. You get a chorus, then you have a bridge. But then again, the bridge could be changed depending on where your worship leader wants to play it. When the worship leader wants to play it, the only thing that's notably different with the bridge is like even though you're only singing the chorus, at the end of the bridge where you stay in A typically in a chorus, right? So um, for those who gladly choose now, it stays in A. Because we're gonna be transitioning to an E key after that bridge. The verse becomes a D, from a D becomes an E, but so it's easier for the vocalist to transition. We're going to add a B note. So I mean, I have to apologize for the singing, but just want to kind of visualize, or so you can get an audible now. It's gonna sound like still the greatest treasure remains for those who gladly choose now. So again, it goes from G and A, and then you add a B. So think one way to think about it's like normally you're staying in A, let's say. So just half that time. So that's how you do the transition to the E key. So with the outro, which is essentially another line of verse, but instead of playing it in D, we're just playing it in E. Everything just shifts 2 frets to the right or 2 steps higher. So the D becomes an E, the A becomes a B, the E becomes an F, a sharp, the D becomes an E, the G becomes an A. So I'm going to use the same pattern that we were doing with the verse, except instead of doing it in D, I'm going to do it in E. So it's going to sound like this. If I do the B here, I would call it a relative note is all the way to the F sharp. So you can just do that in B, but it's easier to do the relative note there. It just sounds better. So that's E. I'm gonna go to B. See, I'm doing the F sharp above the B. Go do the descending pattern. Earlier we were doing E, D, G, D. So it's gonna become F sharp, E, A, E. So so this is F sharp, and that's my octave. That's another F sharp. So I'm gonna do, so I'm gonna go stay in B again. F sharp, E, A. So F sharp, E, A, and back to E. Back to the high E. And then that's the outro, and then the ending is essentially just E, where the worship leaders is sorry, I can't sing. So that's about it for Now It's Time to Worship. Again, that's the very basic version of playing the bass. You can add your own flavor to it. You can add your own style. Again, just watch out for, again, like what I call the relative notes, because you're staying in one note all the time unless you want to do a lot of scales. The easiest way to kind of put in a fill, for instead of just you staying on the same note the entire time, is pressing on the note directly above where you're pressing. And so that's why it's important to stay on the second and the third strings on your bass, because if you end up staying on a string on the first one, sometimes it's hard to find that relative chord, unless again you're playing A, it's like an open string E. Again, if you're doing B here on the 7th fret, your relative key is on the F sharp all the way there. Again, there's other ways to play it. You can do the F sharp here, but it just doesn't sound right for the song. So again, I will just find the B here, or if you go fancy. So that's it. I hope that helps. We're going to actually listen to this song with the backing track so you can see how it's applied. And I apologize, I think I made a mistake when I recorded this video, but you gotta get the idea. So good luck.